Yeah, just really excited for our basketball team and program to be in the regionals again, in particular in Kansas City, where, you know, as the bracket came out, our team was excited about the possibility of playing in Kansas City just because of location and the ability for fans and families to be able to potentially get in the car and drive to see some good basketball. So I'm excited about that. I think Kansas City is a great host for women's basketball. We've obviously been in the Big 12 tournament here in years past and love the environment that Kansas City brings for women's basketball. So we really appreciate what everybody's done thus far. Our team, I'm really, really excited about. I was, as I look back on film of the first two games, I thought that our team played at a pretty high level and played with a lot of enthusiasm and energy. And when you look forward to the game against UCLA, I think that's a common theme that will be necessary to be able to compete with a team of the caliber of UCLA. So we're looking forward to the competition. And again, super proud of our basketball team.
Okay, we'll take questions for Coach. And if you'll put your hand up, we'll get a microphone to you. We'll start on the outside left, and then we'll move to the center, and then we'll come across.
Yeah, Michelle Vopo from ESPN.com. Coach, can you just talk about Brooke's growth and really what she's meant to this program? Because when you look at historically, you know, where she rates, I think it's pretty high. And then also, if you could just talk about also Jordan Canada, UCLA's point guard. I think both of those players have had sort of huge impacts on their programs.
Absolutely. Those 2 point guards committed to their respective programs, I think, to fairly new coaches at those institutions. And I know for us, Brooke bought a vision from our coaching staff, and she also, I think, knew that we saw something really special in her when maybe others didn't. And I think she trusted that vision. And you know, what she's done to elevate our program is pretty priceless, really, and I would say that about all of the guys that we recruited as we first took over at Texas. But I think you have to look at the point guard position, and most often they dictate sort of how your team plays and how competitive your team is. And, you know, what Brooke has developed into, Michelle, is, as much as she might not even want to admit it, I mean, she is the quarterback and she is the personality of our team. And when we're flowing really, really well, Brooke is playing really well, and she has a little smile on her face sometimes when we're really playing well. And when she struggles, sometimes we struggle. So I think that is the reflection probably of a great point guard, is that your team usually goes as they go, and again, not discounting a lot of other players on our team, but she's, as a lot of people call point guard, she's the head to the monster. And I would say the same thing about Canada. They mirror each other as far as what they've done for their programs. And, you know, I mean, obviously Corey would talk about Jordan, but we've played each other so often that you can see the growth of Jordan as much as you can see it of Brooke. And I think what's interesting is that they left their high school teams probably as prolific scorers and have had to evolve into leaders. I know that Brooke has had to evolve into figuring out, okay, sometimes I need to facilitate, and then when is it that I need to take shots and take over? And she's really grown, I think, in her decision-making of what is the timing of when to take a shot and when to get other people involved.
We have a question on the aisle here in the front.
Rick Cantu, the Austin American Statesman. Coach, I want to ask you about 2 players. LaShawn was a great high school player in Austin 3 years ago. Caprice Dean was a great high school player in Austin 3 years ago. What was your thinking about both players as a recruiter when you were looking at the 2 of them? And did you remember, did they have any rivalry? I know they played, I think, in different leagues or different districts, but...
I think you'd probably have to ask them if they were rivals. I definitely saw Japrice play, and I mean, the thing that strikes me, right offhand, just the immediate evaluation of her is just how competitive she is. And she proved that during her time at Texas Tech, and obviously has impacted UCLA's program immediately. LaShawn and Japrice are different. I think Japrice is a point guard that's probably playing off the ball a little bit right now because of Jordan Canada. And, she definitely is a point guard, where I think LaShawn is sort of the opposite of that. I think you can put her at the point, but I think LaShawn is a scoring guard and a combo that most often is the most comfortable at the wing position where she is now. I'm glad you brought up LaShawn, because our seniors have garnered so much attention that it's hard to not put her up there with them as far as how impactful she's been on our team this year, and the difference in her as a basketball player from a cerebral standpoint and a skill standpoint. She's just put so much time in, and when I say time, I'm talking about she's put time in to grow, and she's become such a great decision maker, and she's just really been one of the difference makers on our team.
We've got a question on the outside right, and then we'll move to the front.
Coach Mark Kern, Kansas City Star.
Hey, Mark.
Heading into that Arizona State game, you were kind of talking about how they handled Nebraska on the glass, I think 49-27, and then you guys go out and out-rebound them 40-19. What does that say about your team that kind of implemented game plan, keeping them off the boards, and you capitalize and execute it?
I think execution is the key word, because we knew they were going to be a great rebounding team. Our team saw them play against Nebraska live, and then obviously the coaching staff saw lots of film on how good of a rebounders that they were, and how of a team rebounding aspect that they brought to the table. And I thought that we countered that. When you look at Brooke having 10 rebounds, it's not because she's skying up over everybody. It's because the other players are doing their jobs, and she's sort of sweeping in there and picking up the loose balls. And I think that it has to be that way when you're playing a great rebounding team. It has to be a team effort. And sometimes we get caught, because we've been a fairly good rebounding team all year long. Our guards will get caught sometimes leaking out, because they do want to run and transition, and you just can't do that in postseason play. You can't do that against really, really good rebounding teams, and we're going to see that again tomorrow night.
Question on the front right.
Craig White, Longhorn IMG Radio Network. Karen, obviously this isn't a conference game, but you've seen UCLA enough. You had the scrimmage with them before. You played them 3 years ago. You played them 2 years ago. Is the preparation for them almost akin to like if you would prepare for a conference game, simply because of the personnel and the knowledge that you have of what Corey has and her program?
I think it is somewhat comparable, Craig, because I think one comparison we could make is that we played Oklahoma this year, December 28th or whatever that was, and then we played them the last conference game. So dramatic amount of time between those two games, where the teams had changed dramatically from the first time we saw them. Obviously, it's been many more months since we played UCLA in that scrimmage, and they have additions to their team. Japrice does make them very different. We have a subtraction in Audrey and an addition in Joyner, so we're both very different. But it is, I think there are some aspects that you can sort of say these are reminders of who they are, although in a scrimmage you don't really spend a lot of time on scouting, but there is some familiarity with each other. These guys have been playing against each other for a long time. They know each other.
We have a question on the aisle.
Coach, this is 4 in a row for you to be in this situation. A lot of people in Austin think that this particular team is better equipped to make it to the Final Four than the previous 3. Maybe it's the way they're playing now, or maybe it's the experience factor with the 2 guards. Your thought process on the chances of making it to the next level?
Well, I definitely don't want to discount the team 2 years ago that was defeated by UConn, because I thought that was a pretty good basketball team that unfortunately was in the same region with UConn with Brianna Stewart. But I did think that was a team that was playing at a high level at the time we were in postseason play. And I do think our team is now. And yes, the difference could be that we have 3 experienced guards, where that team, you know, Brooke and Ariel were still very young, and they were impactful on that team, but they were freshmen. So our 3 starting guards are I mean, they've had a lot of experience in a lot of different scenarios, so that's very helpful. And you look at a player like Jatari White, who I think gets overlooked tremendously for the impact that she's had on our team. For me as a coach, I feel very strongly about how she has anchored our team this year. And even though she's new, she had some very valuable experiences at South Carolina. So she's mature. She's new to our conference and new to what she's doing right now, but she is a very mature basketball player that understands game plans. So maybe we are a little bit more mature. But I think that, I mean, it's always the same once you get to the regionals. I mean, it's a pretty high level of basketball. Competition is extremely high. And, I mean, you know, we can talk about our 2 seniors, and UCLA is going to talk about theirs and how much experience they have. So I think it's going to be a great matchup, and very likely intangibles and role players will be the difference.
Got time for one final question for Coach. We've got a question on the far right back.
Coach Greg Eklund, and this is for KCUR, the NPR station here in Kansas City. You talked at the outset, this is a more general question, about Kansas City being a great host for women's basketball. Can you share your thoughts about the Big 12 tournament eventually returning to Kansas City?
Well, I'm very excited about it. And again, I'm saying that knowing that somewhere down the line the men could move. I mean, I understand that that's not a given that both tournaments will be in Kansas City, but I had the privilege of being a part of Texas when I was an assistant coach with Jody when the tournaments were here, and I just remember it being a very good experience. And I don't have anything negative to say. I'm not disappointed that it's coming back. Do I wish it was in Dallas all the time? I'm not going to say no, because Dallas is closer to Austin. But I do think that I have a very positive memory of playing in Kansas City and the overall experience that we all had in the Big 12, and in particular, the experience of possibly having the fan bases be in the same place. I think this, you know, as you talk about it, you want to put fans in the stands, you want the student athletes to play in front of a lot of people, and I think if that's the way that happens, then that's positive for not only the student athletes but for our league, and I'm excited about it.